Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cadet First Class Benjamin Skeets, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our NCLS session featuring Chief Master Sergeant Robert Gutierrez Jr. United States Air Force Chief Master Sergeant Robert Gutierrez entered the Air Force in 2002 and graduated from the Combat Control Apprentice and Journeyman pipeline in 2004. As a combat controller, he was a qualified combat diver, static line parachute jumpmaster, military freefall parachutist, explosive demolition supervisor, joint terminal attack controller, instructor, and air traffic controller. Chief Gutierrez participated in multiple combat deployments throughout his career and was repeatedly decorated for valor. Prior to his last position, he served as the Group Senior Enlisted Leader, Special Warfare Human Performance Support Group, Special Warfare Training Wing, Joint Base, San Antonio, Lackland, Texas. Chief Gutierrez was awarded the Air Force Cross for extraordinary heroism in military operations against an armed enemy of the United States in Herat Province, Afghanistan, on October 5th, 2009. On that date, while assigned as a combat controller to an Army Special Forces detachment, he was shot in the chest, and his 10-man element was pinned down with no escape route. Chief Gutierrez refused to relinquish his duties as a joint terminal attack controller and engaged Taliban fighters with his M4 rifle and controlled 3 danger-close A-10 strafing runs. After the first A-10 attack, the team medic performed a needle decompression to reinflate Chief Gutierrez's collapsed lung, allowing him to direct the next 2 strafe runs, which decimated the enemy force and allowed the team to escape the kill zone without additional casualties. Please join me in welcoming Chief Master Sergeant Robert Gutierrez Jr.
I'm on Central Standard Time, so I'm always looking, and I'm like, this is 1 hour forward. Okay, so it is, good afternoon. Rob Gutierrez, 23 years as a combat controller. Man, it's been a great ride. One of the pinnacle things in my career that I get to do is I get to speak at certain events, and I hope to inspire our airmen for the next fight and for the current one going on. So I always want to put a disclaimer out. I'm not a professional speaker, all right? I'm a chief in the Air Force, and I get paid to tell you the truth and to be honest and give the best recommendations to my commanders and try to inspire and take care of my people. And another real quick disclaimer, the altitude has kind of got to me, so if my nose bleeds, it happens. I was with the shooting team, and one of them threw a punch. I didn't dodge fast enough. It got me. It is what it is. But it's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. There's a lot of things going on in our service right now and across the world. There's multiple fronts, and there's no better place for me to come and talk and try to inspire and give a little bit of notes on some of the mistakes that I've made. Also, some of the things that happened to me, why, but what was the background behind it. So the citation reads pretty cool. It's all right, I am grateful that I have a service cross. There's not many of us around, but most of us in uniform, I never did it anything for an award. I did it for the A, for my country, and B, for the people to my left and my right. And then C, in my profession, because I'm a combat controller, I am an airman first, but this is my profession, it's not a job. My profession was to take the fight to the enemy anywhere they were at and ensure that they don't get a shot back. And even if it cost me my life, it's cool. I signed a document, I got SGLI, it's great. But prior to that deployment, I had a fantastic leader. You guys might know him. He was a graduate of the Air Force Academy, named Kurt Bullard. And before I was leaving, he handed me this little book. And I looked at it and I was like, is this like the, Leadership for Dummies for me, sir? at the time? And he's like, no, it's a good book, read it. I want you to understand it before you go. And I was like, okay. With a raise of hands, can anyone tell me, have you ever heard of a story called A Message to Garcia? It's phenomenal. I love it. But why did I love it? Because it means something. And in my profession, the people I'm surrounded by, it was the epitome of who they were. So if you don't know the story about it, way back when, many moons ago in the 1800s, Spanish-American War, got some things going on with Spain. The U.S. needed an ally with Cuba, and there was a gentleman up there by the name of General Garcia, part of an insurgency force, that the U.S. needed a partner with. And at the time, the President of the United States was like, how are we going to get there? And he had this senior leader told him, he's like, I have a man for the job. His name is Lieutenant Rowan. And obviously, when you're looking at senior leaders, they're like, Lieutenant Rowan? To be honest, sometimes too, I'd have been like, a lieutenant? Ooh. I could do that now because I'm a chief, but before, they were like, yes, if there's someone that can get it done, it's him. So they get the message. They find Lieutenant Rowan, hand this to him, and they say, get the message to Garcia. Lieutenant Rowan takes that, puts it in an envelope, mink of some sort, things like that. There's copyright issues, so I don't want to say it exactly. But takes that, puts it in. Whoosh, gone with the wind. Next thing you know, Lieutenant Rowan is getting off a rowboat on the shores of Jamaica. Next thing you know, in the mountains. 3 weeks later, the message was delivered. Partnership ensues, we win. Some people say, well, that's what's that matter? And what matters is the fact that said Lieutenant Rowan did not ask questions. He didn't say what direction. He didn't say, hey, do I have to do it tonight? Do I got to do it tomorrow? Can I Amazon Prime this? I know they're pretty good at delivering stuff. He asked no questions. He had the initiative to move. He understood the objective. He understood that set assignment. He understood the value of what was necessary to get it done, and he just did it. Now, fast forward, many moons forward, I get this book, Colonel Bullard. I hadn't read it at that point. I read it, and I'm like, interesting. That's pretty cool. At this time, I'm a staff sergeant, so I'm like, if a lieutenant could do it, I could do it. And I'm reading it because I'm not expecting it. I literally just PCS'd from RAF Mildenhall, from the 321st STS, down to the 21 STS, at a Pope. At the time, it was Pope Air Force Base. Now it's a Army Airfield. We don't talk about those Army people. They don't like our golf courses. But they do like our food, though. And then I just got back. My bags are there. My house is I'm just moving in. It's a mess. And I'm just getting things kind of sorted out. I get a phone call. Hey, can you come in? I'm like, oh, no big deal. It's a normal thing. I go in there and they check it in. They're like, hey, you got to leave in 48 hours. I'm like, oh, really? Cool. They're like, your bag's packed? I'm like, yeah, it just came off of deployment. Everything is top notch. I just need ammo and maybe some hand grenades. I don't know. That'd be fun. So didn't say anything. They just said, hey, going back to OEF. I was like, Roger. Didn't ask any questions because I just read the book. Right? Took off. Next thing you know, use America's air power and reach and global access. I get to my spot. I check in to my squadron commander there at the stock, the Special Tactics Operations Center, and bam. Next thing you know, he's like, hey, I was like, all right, mostly in my profession, everyone is fighting. Some people say we're weird, but everyone is fighting to go to the place where you're most likely going to get shot. Like everyone is like literally almost will fist fight to get to a fire base where you will get an engagement every day, all day, every day. That's just who we are. I know we're crazy, but at least our hair looks good, and that's all that matters, right? So, because this thing will mess up my hair sometimes. I'm like, oh. I didn't say anything. I just said, all right, cool, what you got? You know, and they're like, hey, you're going to head out northwest. In my head, northwest is boring because there's nothing going on, right? But I said, okay, cool. Grabbed it. Next thing you know, PAX terminal, figure some things out. I link up with this SF team that I know has been in theater. They don't know me from Adam. I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm Rob. I'm your combat controller. And I got us a plane. They looked at me weird, like, how'd you get a plane? We've been trying to, you know, get one for like 3 weeks. And I said, I signed on the right dotted line. You didn't, sorry. I got friends with cool planes. Next you know, we're out, we're moving forward. I mean, it's the Wild West in that area. At the time, it was kind of like a safe haven for the Taliban. And the Taliban, where they would just like rest and recuperate and stuff like that. Kind of kicked off a couple things, got kicked out of a couple places, dropped a lot of bombs. It was super fun, and I loved it. All up to the point where we get thrown out of our fire base because it said, you guys are too violent. I laughed at that. Because I was just like, wait a minute, we're in a war. What do you mean we're too violent? That's hilarious. I was like, you guys being for real? Like, come on. Like, those are bad guys. They got to die. And they were like, well, just take it easy. As one of my senior leaders that retired, you know, always said that I'm full of, I wouldn't say anger. I wouldn't say anger issues. But he used a certain term. It's a very GO type term. It's really nice, but not nice. But that's how they do it. It's great. But I love him no matter what. It was actually Sir was General Webb. He always said it about me, especially on the football field. Super fun. But they kick us out. We go to this place. We start setting up, and then we're looking for work, right? So I immediately start gathering data, looking at this and that, checking feeds, looking at all this other stuff, what aircraft we're picking up. I'm like, okay, it's this one area. Cool. We're going to target that, you know, present the information. Next thing you know, my SF team's like, this guy's awesome. And I'm like, I'm just here to party. So my parties just involve fisticuffs, you know. We head out, do about a week's worth of targets and things like that. We get back. Next thing you know, a high-value target pops up. Things happen. You know, our nature is very predatorish. Because we are, and just like everyone in this building here, we are predator, not prey, ever, right? We look at it as we're the United States Air Force. There will be no one that competes with us because they can't, because we will smash them in every aspect, in air, space, land, wherever, doesn't matter. So we get up, start moving. It's a long movement. I won't bore you through that kind of stuff because walking's boring. So. But when you're walking with 75 pounds a pack, 2 ISR aircraft, fighter jets are offset at 15 miles because you don't want to blow a target, and you start running through a village. Previously, they had blown up 3 MARSOC elements, and on top of that, like pushed out any kind of like coalition force. You got to kind of be quick with the feet. So using speed in the night as our option and our help to get up to what's called the last concealment portion, scaled by 20-foot walls. I've got ISR, and I'm looking at everything. We go in. Our first team goes to a breach. They breach. They go in. I'm usually with a ground force commander. So for me as a combat controller assigned to a ground force commander, he's in charge. Technically, they're his bombs. He borrows them from us. So that's what I tell the Army. I'm like, you borrow things from us. We just provide a great service. Get in there. Get a little scuffle here and there, shoot a couple rounds, get a little aggressive. A lot of things go on in combat. You're trying to figure out. I got some information going in. A couple elements are moving towards our location. Our target was last known in that position, but moved basically to the other side of a wall. And they had bricked up all the excesses that we've seen on imagery that we thought were out, so we're stuck in a building fighting our way, you know, for life, basically. During that process, in an engagement, I was hit. My buddy said, hey, you should have bobbed instead of weaved. And I told him I should have weaved instead of bobbed. It's an ongoing fight that we have forever. Took it to the chest, shoulder, lung, broke all my ribs. Super fun. But at the end of the day, I had one thing in mind, and that was to complete the objective. Because at the end of the day, that's our enemy. He's going to die. We are going to live, and we are going to win. So if you look back, I had no other idea other than what I had read and understood from my leaders that taught me. Up to the point to where I took a bullet. It's different, you know, when you take a bullet to the chest and the arm and you're in a fight and you fall and you try to breathe, but blood comes out your mouth and it's coming out your nose. Not like this one here, this one's easy. But it's coming out your nose and you're just like, what just happened, right? Time stops. It just stops. So I was like, okay, what do I do? In my head, I had enough, more than enough to fight for. At the time, also too, I had an unborn child, things like that, you know what I mean? And I want to see my kid too. But at the end of the day, my teammates to the left and to the right of me, they are brothers, husbands, dads, you know, uncles, good neighbors, good cooks, and they matter to me as a teammate, you know, teammates. So I just stayed in the fight, refused to take off my stuff, basically got up. My medic dragged me in the building, gave me a needle decompression. I was listening to all the chatter was going on. At the end of the day, 3 danger close strafes, less than 10 meters, annihilate the enemy, pack my stuff, get up, not be a burden, and walk off the X. Right? Nobody likes walks. I don't like it. I like to run, but I couldn't run because I only had one lung. Kind of sucks. But a kilometer and a half out, which is roughly about a mile to an HLZ, set it up, do all the things, because we also had some other wounded in there, and they were my priority, and ensuring that those guys were dead, the bad guys, get us up in the helicopter, adios, I'm gone. But at the end of the day, you know, high-value target Taliban person that we've been chasing probably for, at the time, probably about 6 or 7 years, dead. I love it. Two days after, or roughly 2 nights after, my replacement that came in, another combat controller, attaches to another SF team with another TACP airman that we have who's phenomenal. They do a large operation, and they basically shut that thing down. They kill the next level bad guy. 88 Taliban fighters gave up their weapons and decided to turn it in. Those are optimized results right there, you know? All because I read a message to Garcia. Kurt Buller told me, get the message to Garcia. And for our cadets here, you're on a path of success. You have a fantastic opportunity here to be great leaders in the world's greatest Air Force and Space Force. And you're given it, and all you need is just initiative. I get it. Sometimes school is hard. Hey, I'm not blaming you. I was like a C average at best student. You know what I mean? I just can lift weights really hard and run fast and kick some people and stuff like that, and it works out. But you have a fantastic opportunity here to take the initiative, to build future airmen also once you leave here, to help them with a mindset. And that mindset is to win. You see, in the game that we play of life and with our profession, there is no second place. We are never second. We must be first every single time. Because first place equals winning, second place equals dying. And I want you to know that every day when you get up in the morning and you go to class and you have to do PT, you have to do a formation or whatever the case, the only thing that should matter is that this builds habits of success. You'd be surprised how the smallest little habits that you build you for success in the future. I know I teach my son to make his bed every day. Every day. Maybe one day he'll join. I don't know. Teach my daughter the same thing. Every day. The airmen under my lead that I've been offered the opportunity to, taught them well. Did the same. They're winning. Why? Because they understand that whatever task they have, it has to be completed at all cost. Now granted, note, there's always a legal, ethical, and moral way to do it. I'm not saying break the law, do anything ridiculous. What I'm saying is that understand your parameters and get in there. If you got to work in the gray, that's fine. That's cool. We all work in the gray. I work in the gray, do it all the time. But the objective is to win. And it's not a win for you. It's a win for your teammates. It is a win for your country that will ask you one day in the future to go fight. Your country will ask you to go take the fight somewhere else. We prefer not at home. I like my Amazon delivery and Prime. But they will ask you to go to foreign lands and foreign soils and go fight an enemy who is training every day to fight you. And understanding that that is happening across the world in multiple places should drive you. How many people want to live a long and prosperous life in happiness? I hope to see every single hand upraised. I do. But at the end of the day, Chief retires real soon. Like real soon. I need a replacement. I need people that have been born to lead, to replace. I need more Lieutenant Rowans that will win. And right now, I'm looking at an audience of Lieutenant Rowans. I need you to go win and get the message to Garcia. There's a lot of motivational things out there. Sometimes, anybody heard the term who's going to carry the boats? Right? I go to BMT sometimes, and I talk to young airmen that are about to come in there. And they say, who's going to carry the boats? And then I tell them, nah, that's stupid. And some of them are shocked. Not because I'm a chief and I'm telling them that's stupid, but it's the fact that I'm like, that's the wrong term. I tell them instead, who's going to carry the flag? This flies forward only. It never goes in return. It never retreats. I don't care about a boat, carrying a boat. I care about this going forward only, because that's all that matters. This is what we fight for the win. That's what matters. This is the message to Garcia I'm asking you in your journey to carry. Carry the message. Our country asks you, prepare yourselves. Now is the time to prepare. move forward, and win. Other way, sir. There we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, during this time, while we're holding one of the most sacred things that our country stands on, when I get to hold and cherish what we have here that we fight so dearly for, what I ask you, can you hold it? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is, are you willing and ready and able to get the message out? Are you? It's up to you. I beg that you do. I plead that you do. So many have perished for this before us, and many will in the future. Be worth it. Be worth the sacrifice. Love it because it's your own. We only get one. Get the message. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. For me, it's a big deal. This is the last speech I give in uniform. I chose here for a reason. You are our future. Lead my airmen. Lead them to the win. Thanks for your time.
Time for questions for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief Gutierrez. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for questions. Attendees can ask questions at the microphones positioned in the audience.
If you got a question, go for it, shoot it. I'll be honest.
Sir Cadet Davidson from Embry-Riddle. What was your mindset going into your first combat deployment, and how did your mindset and perspective change as you gained more combat experience?
Very good question. My first experience in combat was wild. You can train for it all you want. Nothing prepares you for the actual mission, like the action. It was a maturing step for me just in general. In the beginning, it was, contact, 2 o'clock, X, Y, and Z, this whole side. And then being who I was and the people that built me and stuff like that, the NCOs and the officers that trained me, I would let that 50 cal rip like no other. And that 240, I was launching rockets. Anything I had, I was throwing at them, right? It was wild. And then the older I got and the more repetitions I had, I started realizing, man, I just wasted a bunch of taxpayer dollars. I don't even know if I hit that guy, And then I took some advice from a friend of mine, and he was like, hey, man, because also as a combat controller, right, I got aircraft on station and stuff like that, and I was going to, blow them to oblivion. I'm trying to, dump B-1s complete Winchester, do everything I can. And then he was like, hey, man, can you do me a favor? You get me real riled up is what he told me. And he goes, can you just do me a solid? And he goes, I know you're young, but just listen to me. And I go, what's that? Yeah, I'll listen to you, right? And he's like, just stop. I was like, okay. And I learned to, and it's a pretty good analogy for life when things go haywire. Stop, look, listen, and feel. The older I got, the more opportunity I did. Anytime we came in contact or whatever the case, something was going on, I would just stop and go, okay, look for the targets, look where it's at, listen for the sounds. Oh, they're shooting at us from over there. And then kind of get a better feel, like what direction we're going to go after, and then execute. And then I wasted a lot of taxpayer dollars. I also started carrying like less mags and stuff like that. So I'm a pretty short, stocky guy. I know my face looks kind of chubby. I don't care. Because I throw down. I could PT like a monster. I love it. The service gave me the opportunity, so I do. But really what it came down to was like I stopped carrying so many mags and looking huge and stuff like that, and started streamlining my stuff to be more effective on the battlefield and to execute at a faster rate with efficiency and accuracy. And over time, it grew. And I just lived off that, stop, look, listen, and feel. So it was helpful, and it matured me a lot. It worked out. I mean, I'm still here, so it worked out. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Jessalyn Nelson, and I'm here with the Francis Hesselbein Student Leadership Program. And you talked to us about building habits for success. What habit have you developed that you feel most impacted yourself as a leader?
I work out. Serious. We have a fantastic HP program. I know you guys do too, so there's no excuse. I trained. So a strong mind can do anything, right? A strong mind with a strong body can go anywhere. Think about it. Are astronauts in like super bad shape? They're extremely intelligent. They put their bodies through the rigor. They physically prepare, and we put them in space, right? People climb Mount Everest. It takes technical skill to do that, and you have to train for that. And they scale those mountains. I'm scared of heights, so I don't want to climb a mountain. I will jump, because I have to, but I am scared of heights. But a habit, what I did was I started working out. Even, because it's in my profession no matter what, but I started being really deliberate about it. Deliberate about this, like my cardiovascular endurance, my strength, make a good ratio, things like that, and it's worked out. And what it did is it helped me build objectives to meet and goals, and then I was able to take that and apply it in anything else I do. I used the 130% method, because if your goal is set at 130%, what are you already achieving once you get to that 130? You're getting past the 100. Which also means another thing. In life here, in the service, I would really want you to think about this. Exceeding the standard is the standard. If you're barely meeting the standard, that's on you. But if you're trying to exceeding the standard on every day, now you're becoming a professional. Because you're completing the objective plus more. And that builds you here, here, and here.
Thank you, sir.
I'm a pretty simple person too, so.
Good afternoon, Chief. A1C Kusikanki Tarkino from Holloman Air Force Base. My question is, what's your advice as a chief especially for those airmen that are trying to go your route to the senior leadership, either as officer, enlisted as you as a chief, or maybe on the government service?
One thing I learned over 23 years is learn how to communicate. Super simple concept, right? But can be actually really complex. But if you learn how to communicate with clarity, transparency, goodwill, and understanding, you will get super far. Communicating is like a lost art. Understanding your audience, who you're talking to, things like that, is one thing. Communicating to get a message across to them is another. So one thing as an aspiring leader is learn how to communicate, right? You can practice it with anybody. I used to have a commander who was super grumpy. I didn't know how to communicate to him. So you know what I did? I called my grumpy ass dad. And I started having conversations with my dad. And I started getting after him, different avenues, and trying to talk here and there. And next thing you know, he's like agreeing with me, and I'm like, yeah, got it. And I turned around, went back to work, applied the same concept, changed my communication style with him. Next thing you know, I'm getting results. Weird. But that's the key thing, communication, right? Communicating with clarity, understanding intent, and getting the message across.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for coming out, Cadet Cody with VMI. I was just wondering if you could tell us, as many of us are going into commission as second lieutenants in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, what are some qualities you're looking for as we're coming in as second lieutenants, new, working with the NCOs?
Oh, boy. Oh, man. Ma'am, you came from VMI? Yes. I'll answer this question if you go to the Air Force.
I'm already contracted Army, sorry.
Oh, God. Yeah, guys, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll see you guys later. I'm just kidding. No. So one thing is always have an open mind, right? I have witnessed in some instances watching young leaders, young lieutenants and stuff come out, and they're aggressive, and it's great. I love it. And they want to get after the fight, and they want to go do this, but they're so focused on this. This is the way they learn. This is how they can do it, and da-da-da. They forgot about the people. And understanding the resources that are available to you right there, right at your fingertips. The experience that is here, the experience that is there, and able to like garner that experience, put it in their own formula, and then try to get it out there. Like that aggressiveness is great, but it can also hinder you. So always understanding your environment, who you're with, who's around you, who has experience in it. Like me, for instance, when I was at the Human Performance Support Group, right? That's all medical and human performance. You know the medical I know? It's called TCCC. And the first thing about TCCC is shoot back. That's the first thing. Then apply tourniquet after I got them in the cover. That's all I knew. You know what I mean? Other than getting like needles and stuff in me, I don't know. I didn't do it. my medic did it. And understanding like these people were really aggressive. And I had to figure out like how to get certain things done. But one thing I knew was they were SMEs and I was not. So I would communicate to them and talk to them. Because at that time I was also relatively new to leadership in certain apps at a different level. Garner their SME experience, take the input, combine it, and then work with my commander to make the decision on the way forward, right? So it's cool to be aggressive, but understand your pace and understand your audience, understand the resources you have, and combine it to be more effective is what I would say. Oh, and have patience.
Thank you, Chief.
I was talking earlier, one quote that I learned growing up, obviously chiefs like to work out, so I need obviously supplementation of food, right? And I love Mexican food because I'm from San Diego, California. And yeah, go Padres. This one restaurant, and I learned this, and I read it, and I didn't think it would ever apply to me in life, but I read it, and it said, the essence, or patience is the essence of fine Mexican food. And I was like, oh, I can use that analogy for life. If I just had patience, I can get so many more things done. So it worked out. Patience. It'll get there.
Hey, sir, I'm Esme Sautel. I was wondering, throughout your speech, you were talking a lot about winning every day and going for the mission and just expecting winning, but how throughout your career have you learned to work through failure every day?
Oh, I'm a chief in the Air Force. I failed a lot. I screwed up a lot. Those are the things that actually haunt me. I failed at some things. It's fair, happens, right? You learn. But one thing I did when I did fail is I told myself, I will never do that again, ever. And built a habit of not replaying the same thing over and over again and making that same mistake. So yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes, I assure you, but recovered through implementing change management, different practices, and understanding why I failed, right? Understand why I failed, and then build plans and COAs to never do it again.
Thank you, sir.
Chief Gutierrez, on behalf of the United States Air Force Academy and our National Character and Leadership Symposium, thank you for sharing your experiences and enriching our understanding of warfighters to win.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. God bless. Get the message out. Go get it.